See. All right. Oh, this time I wanted to talk about just dating, attraction, getting involved with people, having game, whatever. Throw a little socionics like twist to it. It's a subject I really like a lot. I always find it fun, can't get enough of it. So why not? Go for it. So, certain things to get out of the way first, right? Certain obvious stuff. There's always the talk about duality, dating within your quadra, all this other crap within socionics. Do I agree with that? On one hand, it's okay. It's a good thing. You should ideally look for somebody within your quadra and all that kind of stuff. Fine. But do I really think that's the end all be all? That no, not really. And let's face it, you can't go around asking people, "Are you from my quadra? Are you my dual?" Like, it's not realistic, and I'm not convinced it's necessary. So, whatever. So, keeping it simple and straight to the point, what types probably would be a little more advantaged in, let's call it, the dating side of it, the early part of it, right? Being attractive, finding people, talking to people, that kind of thing. Well, right off the bat, it's easy to say that your extroverted types are probably more advantaged in this. Types that have FE, SE in higher places in their stack would probably do better in these areas. And I think, to be honest, a certain amount of TE really helps, because you need to be able to learn. You got to learn new tricks, new things, be willing to learn stuff. So that helps. FI is also going to part. So right away, we could start like making some very quick assumptions that some types that are in a good position, especially again in the early stages of dating. So SLEs, ESEs, what else we got around here? IEEs. I'd put EIEs in there as well. SEE, of course. You got to throw these different types in there. All of them are likely to do well early on and be in the most advantageous position in terms of their valued elements that they've got going on. What do they all have in common? Well, you're looking at a lot of extroverted types that need SE, because you got to take action. This is a big problem with certain types. They just don't take action. They don't do anything. So for some of my poor introverts, especially the really, really introverted ones, this could be a big problem for them. They just don't move. They don't do anything. They're too passive and always waiting for someone else to take initiative. So having a higher SE is going to really help a lot. FE, creating a vibe, creating a mood, understanding how to select a mood, work with it, is going to be helpful. So already you can see where certain types that have those things would do well. But FI is very helpful. So being able to gauge where you are with somebody. Does this person like me? Do they not like me? What are we going to do about that? How can I get this closer? What is this person all about? What's their character? What's their nature? Are they good for me? That's where the FI is going to kick in. Types that have that very high are going to do well with that. It's important. So right away, I would throw the SEE as a type that would probably do very, very well early on, because they have all three of those things going on. A really nice addition is if you throw in TE. And I put this, shit, we're having little connection issues. All right. One of the things I noticed with a lot of people, a lot of types, and particularly in general women, I'm gonna call the ladies out on this one. You need to be able to learn, seek out tips, tricks, new information, whatever. Learn how to be better in conversation, how to be better at being a little more charming, how to be better at setting up a date, how to dress to impress, whatever. All these things require like learning at what works, what's useful. Something I see certain people do a lot, especially I would say certain types are more prone to this, is adopt this sort of attitude of, well, I just want to be my authentic self. I'm just going to be me, and the right person will see me for who I am, and like that's it. It's like, okay, yeah, great. How's that working out for you? Being authentic to yourself and being true and never making any changes, that's, that comes later. But in the beginning, you're meeting somebody, early stages, you need to make a splash. You need to be seen. You need to have some impact so that people notice you. This is why it's very SE going on and FE and stuff like that. It's very important. So, ramble through some of the Socion itself. I'm going to go backwards because Delta's quadrant just gets forgotten about all the time. Poor souls. So, EIIs. Let's go that way. EIIs, my INFPs. Love this type personally. I married one. I found myself a fine, sexy one. You'll see her at some point, I'm sure. Well, I'll bring her on here for you. But EIIs, guess what? They don't put themselves out there. They tend to be very passive types. They tend to be kind of more hanging back. They don't really assert themselves. They don't like to make the first move in many cases. Here's where gender starts to really come into play. Gender, in certain culture or areas, you expect the males to make the moves. So I often find a lot of poor EIIs that are like my INFPs, males, can struggle more. Some of the females can get away with being a little bit more passive, more of that fly on the wall, that type of thing. Also introverted and part of Delta. Another poor soul that can be too picky, too hiding in the background, and they don't really get noticed. They don't really pick up on what's going on. Might take them a while to really see where they're at with somebody. It's another issue with them. Really, you can see this with Deltas in general, but especially the introverted types are really the ones that are hiding in the background. Okay, well, It's just never fun without a few technical difficulties, is it? All right. So anyway, what was I? Obviously, some people are going to start thinking, and already are, like, everything is not type related. Don't think that I'm that guy who says that everything boils down to your type and so on. I'm not. Okay. We're just having a little fun with it. Just kind of discussing a little bit of just dating and game and things like that, which is just interesting to me, and linking it a little bit with typology. Why not? Let's just have some fun with it. So just got that out of the way. Anyway, where was I? This is a reason I don't buy the whole Taylor Swift is EII kind of thing either. EIIs usually take their time to get into a relationship. They're slow to get into it. They're very choosy, and once they're in, they're in. It's hard for them to jump out of a relationship and then go do something. And with Taylor, boy, she's bouncing around with guys left and right. No, that just doesn't work. Anyway, I digress. So said SLIs are a little bit tricky. Now the IEEs, these guys, quite different. I've seen quite a bit of back and forth with IEEs, the ENFPs. These can date quite a bit, and sometimes not so much. It's just another one of these quite versatile personalities. Now, one of the things they do well is that they are usually this more outgoing, peppy, very social type that really knows how to meet a lot of people. And depending on the specifics, they're usually pretty good as conversationalists, good at really talking things up and so forth. But I do notice they sometimes struggle at finding the right ones. They are ones that can date around a lot because they just, let's face it, fuck around and just date some people they shouldn't. Which brings me to LSE, the ESTJs, another type that seems to have a similar problem from what I've seen. Poor souls, lacking in the FE, but do value the FI. And these guys can actually date a lot. But boy, they can come across as toast, dry toast. And them, kind of like the LIEs and the ENTJs, can really sometimes struggle at knowing how to pick them, and can find themselves really heartbroken often in and out of relationships. It seems to be a common thing for them. And I've seen it done a lot myself. But I have seen a few that have done quite well and have really been able to put themselves out there and date an awful lot. And it's almost like they just kind of play the numbers game. If I just do enough of them, then one of them will work. I have seen that kind of play out. Overall, Hannah here is kind of saying Delta Quadrant doesn't care about being forgotten. Yeah. This is a strength and a weakness for Deltas, in my opinion. It's a weakness in some cases because some of the Deltas can be a little bland, a little boring, fading into the background. And when it comes to shimmering your feathers a little bit and peacocking, and making sure that you get noticed, making sure that you're attracting certain kinds of people, being kind of bland and overly humble, a little too nice, it's not so great. It doesn't work too well. But the advantage for a lot of these Deltas is they don't get into a lot of the drama and the chaos that some of the other quadras do. They are basically a little bit more settled down, can know who they like, really understand a little bit better the kind of person that they're after and the sort of relationship they're trying to do. And they could be a little more calm, a little more settled. And usually once they finally get in a relationship, Deltas can do a lot better at really making sure the relationship stays stable and things like that. So that's kind of where the Deltas do better compared to, like, say, Betas. So there's pros and cons as always to everything. Hold on a second here. What do we got here? Easy peasy difference in SLIs and SEIs in the dating context. Well, if it's dating context wise, SEIs, I would imagine SEIs would be a lot better. I'm not even going to imagine that. They are a lot better for obvious reasons. They just have better feeling factors going on. They're just better at the feeling, at the social game. Meeting more people, just being networking, just talking to more people. The more people you know and you meet to, the more the chances are you're going to meet somebody who's going to connect well with you. So SEIs are going to do a hell of a lot better usually. Problems with SEIs, though, I've seen a lot of them really struggle to figure out the right person and bounce around from relationship to relationship. I've seen that a lot. So they can have a really hard time kind of like really finding the right ones. Also, SEIs are usually a really nice personality, very gentle, positive-minded alpha quadra. They're not always so good at setting boundaries, not letting somebody else run right over them, things like that. They can be taken advantage of quite easily. That's a problem for them. SLIs, on the other hand, their problem is more likely that they're too damn introverted and too chill and don't get noticed, too passive. That could be a problem. See, on one hand, you need a little bit of assertiveness, a little bit of that SE-like energy, that drive to throw yourself out there, to make shit happen, make the first move. Don't be passive waiting for someone else to come to you. You got to be able to go to them. SLIs are notorious for being one of the most schizoid-like types, meaning that they're very reclusive a lot. They're very just so mellow, so chill that that's a problem. That can be a problem. They can be very dry, boring. See, they're putting on here FE polar. Yep, it's part of being dry and boring, and it's again, I'm not shitting on these types because there's a pro and a con to everything. As I said before, Delta be more chill and better once they're in a committed relationship. But the initial going out, meeting somebody, making a splash, getting attention, that's where Deltas, perhaps with the exception of the IEE, who's the most outgoing one of the Deltas. That's why typically for dual, IEEs are supposed to go find the SLIs, supposedly. Anyway, gammas. Gammas are a nuts. They are a really interesting one, especially if you're going to talk about like do duality and dating and within the quadra works. A lot of people express doubt that gammas really work well with each other. And I can really see why. I can really see why. Gammas are so damn independent and sometimes just kind of assholes that they don't even get along amongst each other. So that could really be a problem. So, for example, you have types like the ESIs. ESIs are, this is almost like a love-hate, either love them or you don't type. Some people love ESIs and some people can't fucking stand them. It's just how it is. They are it's interesting to say. They're very assertive types. They know what they're after. They're usually pretty, a little bit more tame, a little more quiet. Once again, it's a little bit more of that introverted sort of style. They're kind of can be a little passive. They can also be a little bit picky about which types they want to go after and which ones they don't. ESIs, I feel like, I guess as a guy dealing with ESIs, I feel like I have to deal with the bitch test. The bitch test just means that you're going to go up to them and approach them. And there's a good chance that when you start talking to them, they're going to just give you some angry bitch fucking statement. You know, they're going to call you out on something as like, is that your best line? Or, you know, like you just feel like you're going to get that kind of energy. And so you better be prepared to deal with it. Some people like that bitchy, bratty energy. Some people don't. It's what it is. But they're usually not a gentle, soft kind of type, which that leads to certain problems there. And it's an interesting combination, that being a little bit more introverted, more guarded, but then also like really assertive, almost hostile at times. It's an interesting combination. It's like you kind of really need, ESIs really need somebody that almost likes to be kind of pushed around, or somebody that is really assertive and strong and can take it, can really take that. Or maybe some kinky fuckers that just like, you know, like all that bratty bitchiness is like foreplay, you know. ILIs, poor souls. ILIs, I feel bad for ILIs in this case, man. ILIs in many cases, let's face it, they're FE polar, just like the SLIs, really struggling to emote, to show some enthusiasm, to want to go out with people and do things. All negatives early on, because you're having a hard time getting out there. If you never get out there and meet people, then how are you supposed to, you know, find the one, you know? ILIs are also known as, again, the critics. They can be super nerdy, very pedantic sometimes. And this just doesn't always fly well. It's not creating the right kind of vibe. ILIs may not be good enough with the FI to pick the right ones. And ILIs, sometimes they picked on one person. They're like, no, I want that one right there, that one. I like her. But yeah, but what about all these other ones here? You know, there's Teresa over here likes you, you know, what about the, you know, and they might just be ones like, nope, I want this one. Okay. But then you can't get that one, and now you're stuck and you're refusing to go after anybody else, you know. So can be a problem for ILIs. Let's face it, they're not known for being socially graceful. Hence, they often need SEEs a lot. SEEs, on the other hand, have the ability, at least in terms of their stack, to really dominate the dating world, to just kick ass and take names, whether male or female. I'm a big fan of gender. As I said, gender matters. Gender makes a big deal. So certain types are often very masculine types, and certain types are often very feminine types, and that's why it can be a problem. It can be a problem. If you're EII and male, you may have some issues. In fact, if you're any of the NFs and male. However, if you're any of the STs, especially something like an SLE and female, that could be a problem, right? Because usually seen as a very masculine kind of temperament, kind of type, you know. So it can be a problem. Anyway, SEEs can kick ass because, again, they have pretty good usage of FI, good usage of FE, enough energetic SE, get out themselves, go after the right types of people, make a move, whatever. If they learn and decide to learn to get better at it and not be so impulsive, they can really kick ass and hopefully go save those ILIs. I feel like LIEs are a little bit of a mixed bag. LIEs can we got a whole bunch of, what is going on here? weird, especially the SEILUN. Gamma dualities are very weird. Yep. And you will see this, a lot of people will talk about it. A lot of people will bring this up. You don't see it talked about as much when you just go read up on stuff online or you want to read someone's writings. You don't see it that much. But in real life, a lot of people bring this shit up. That gamma is a weird clusterfuck in there about dating amongst each other. In fact, there's a lot of people even said they rarely see an SEE and an ILI dual, for example. Why that is, I don't know. Again, I really think that the gammas, they just don't play well with others too much. Even amongst each other. The only males I know are gay. It tells a lot about our society. Well, I don't know why. I know some IEIs and they're not II males. They're not gay. There's even some that you'll see out here on the YouTube land. They're not gay. So they are a type that they can slay sometimes. Sometimes. ESI and ILI couples more often. You know what? I think there's something to that too. And I think it's as simple as it's almost like they just like their kind of like introverted, low-key kind of energy and temperament that kind of works out better. And they find each other. I know some ESI and IEI combinations. And very introverted bunch. Wow. It gets to a point where like people don't even want to leave the house. Ugh. This is a big deal. And this is one of the issues I have with Galenko or some of the people who want to get into talking about duality as being the thing to do. I get it. Mathematically, it's the thing. In reality, things don't quite make that much sense to me. For example, even Galenko will tell you that chances are when you meet your dual, there's a good chance that you might not even get along. You might not like each other. You can see that the other person is like totally opposite from you. And so you're not getting along. Okay. In reality, when you meet somebody, you may only have 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, a short time to make your move. So if you're not vibing already, when are you going to? When are you going to suddenly fix that? You know, one of the things I have issues sometimes when people make it all about the dual, it's just like, no. There's other things I think are more important. Some people, you know what, they are very interested in certain things. There are some people that are intuitive types and they like other intuitives, plain and simple. They just have a harder time with sensors and vice versa. So all important stuff. See, this is some weird shit I never understood. Just me personally, like, I never got it. I was always the kind of person that I always looked for the compatibility. The compatibility had to really be there. The chemistry had to be there right from the start. And if it's not really there, I'm like, I'm out. I don't. So going back and forth with SLE, LIE, the SI versus FI polar. One of the good news, at least if you're looking at the beneficiary ring, these two are on the same benefit cycle, meaning they can look like one another from time to time. You can have an LIE that's kind of developed their SE a lot in certain environments. They look a little SLE-ish. They lean in the SLE kind of direction. That's a thing. And the other way around. Some SLEs, they look a little more LIE. They have more of that, more thought out, long-term business practices kind of thing. They look like an LIE. Telling the difference, I would go to quadra values. What do you value? Do you really value, do you value FI in particular? That's something I would be paying attention to. See, some people look at me and they think that I'm an SLE. And I'm like, no. For starters, I definitely value FI more. A lot more. Way too much to be an SLE. So it just doesn't make any sense. So that's what I would pay attention to. Duality isn't a natural cause. Isn't natural because of temperament differences. Well, this would make for a hell of an argument because they really believe in duality, and they would say that no, it should be natural. When you're talking to a dual, it shouldn't be that let's call it. However, in my personal opinion, I don't know. I personally have not seen people who are my supposed duals and been like, oh, like, no. So I'm not a big fan of the duality thing, but that's why it's fun to talk about dating and attraction stuff in a general sense, because you never know who you're trying to date, hook up with. Shouldn't have to be focused on your dual. Yeah, a lot of people meeting online. Yeah, still the old-fashioned way is still better. Doesn't matter. What's great with the online dating stuff is that you can now create little apps and programs and stuff like that. I mean, Jack even talked about helping some of these dating sites, and you can go into some kind of a site where you can hopefully meet somebody who's the supposed correct type and all that kind of shit, whatever. But I'm a bit old school for that. Oh, I got to jump straight to this. I get along with the dual LSC and work cons. Communication easy workflow, but never romantic flair. Yeah. Hannah, right on, girl. This is kind of where I stand on this. Personally, I feel like a lot of the duality, working with your quadra, if you're talking about building a team, a work environment, an organization, and people are of the same quadra, that's going to work well. That's going to work well, right? The literature, the research kind of says that. Okay. Romantic, though. I think romantic stuff is a whole nother ballgame. There's more little elements that now need to come into play that really make a big deal. Really make a big deal. Yeah, there's more I could say there, but let me carry on here. And I see SLE is my conflictor, much more fun. Okay, so we have some EIIs on here. All right, cool. Way to go, EIIs. Which is why I would say that certain types, when it comes to dating, the initial part of dating, I want to highlight that for people. The initial part, the meeting somebody, the getting to know them, starting to date, starting to move things along, that early phase, certain types have kind of a natural advantage. Okay. I'm speaking very generally. It's with a broad brush based on what their elements are, right? SLEs to me are one of those types that has an advantage. their willingness to learn and adapt, do whatever it takes. It's a little bit of the SE and the TE going on. They have FE. It's in there. So sometimes when they want to, they can turn on the charm. They could put themselves out there, make sure that they get noticed. And ultimately, they can just be more fun. That's what you have there. There can just be fun. And being fun is so important. It's so important. You got to be fun. You can't be a dry, boring toast. It's not good in the long run for the odds. If you're the most charming, exciting person in the room, you now might have multiple options of people who might be interested in you. But if you're that dry toast on the wall, then you're just desperately hoping for that one person who's going to make a move to come to you. You don't want to be in that position. So that's why, again, SLEs, SEEs, these types usually do very well. ESEs. I was saying LIEs, I think can be in the middle. They can learn over time to get good at it, especially if they try to get good at it. They can put that TE to use to learn, like, well, how do I dress? How should I speak? What should I do? How do I hold a conversation? How do I make myself interesting? LIEs can kind of do that as well. Now, betas, oh Lord, but especially when you get the extroverted betas, EIEs, SLEs, they really know how to make sure that you notice them, which is super helpful. The other introverted betas might be a bit of those guys, again, it's the introversion, especially the IEIs. But I've seen some IEIs, depending on where they are, like literally what are they doing? Are they part of some social club or something like that? They can do quite well. Let's see what's going on with it. Do you play any video games? Yes. Yes, a bunch of them. It's like a lot to mention, but I'll just say Mass Effect is awesome. I don't know why people haven't played Mass Effect and don't understand it. If they haven't, then it's like, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But a whole bunch of different kinds of games. Why is this rare? Why is SLE and IEI rare? Or why is it more rare than any other dual type? Let's put it that way. Why is that specific thing rare? Do I ever consider charges? A little bit, yes. I'm not a big fan of charges, but I do think there's some utility to charges in terms of if somebody wants to make the argument that, let's say, an SEE and an SLE don't really behave quite the same way. They don't seem to use the SE in the same way. And so you want to talk about charges now. I'll agree with you on that. Types like that, you'll notice, yes, there's a difference in how they're kind of using the so-called element in a very broad sense, very general sense. I don't think we really need to use charges, though, to address that. And after a while, charges is just adding more and more shit into the mix. You're already making a system that's complicated more complicated. So I'm not entirely sold on how important charges really are. But if somebody wants to get cute and talk about like positive and together and they hook up and ooh, okay, yeah, which is partly what I'm just kind of like discussing tonight, having some fun with. Certain types have advantages. EIIs could get along with anybody. Yeah, it's almost impossible not to like an EII or to have any kind of gripe against them. But there's one thing in terms of getting along, just not pissing anybody off and just sort of being there. Okay. And then there's like getting the right kind of attention you want. making sure that you're seen, people want to be attracted to you, that kind of thing. That's an area EIIs can struggle with because they can sometimes be too passive. Often they're too passive. Oftentimes kind of waiting around for the right kind of person to show up. That could really be an issue for EIIs. This is a mystery. You've never got along in EII. Okay, there's some stories to be told there, I guess. Can't stand them. Too unstructured. Yeah. I mean, some people are going to feel that way. I can see that. I can get it. I can't argue against that. Personally, I find them, well, I can find several of them to be pretty damn cute and pretty hot. So I don't mind them. Elden Ring? No. Skyrim? I've done that. So anyhow, again, being able to talk and converse is a big deal. It's very, very important stuff. Being able to really shimmer your feathers, peacock, put yourself out there, important stuff. This is where the SEs and the FEs and all that matter. It makes a big difference. I usually would feel like Alpha Quadra as a whole probably would not suffer too much in this area. They're generally pleasant. They get along well. They know a lot of people, create good atmosphere. So, but the NTs, ILEs, LIIs, yeah, you're going to have some issues on there. For the ILEs, it's more likely just the lack of FI, getting into relationships they shouldn't, not judging them right, all kinds of different problems there. LIIs are probably going to suffer the most. They're probably going to be one of the types that really, really struggles a lot out of the entire Socion. They're one of those types that's going to struggle. I would imagine LIIs, ILIs, SLIs. Yeah, these are some types that are really going to suffer. Hey, it's my girl. Hi, everybody. Miss Villa. Right. So one of those key features, again, put yourself out there and be able to be a good conversationalist. That's a big one. The conversation is a big one. One of the issues a lot of people run into is that they're horrible at talking. How often have you been with somebody and you feel like you're trying really hard to get them to say something, pull teeth? They're just there. And then there's other types you can't get them to shut the fuck up. Now, generally, which one's kind of worse? You can't put yourself out there. You're too shy. You're struggling to talk. That's probably going to be worse. It's more of an issue. One of the big issues a lot of those types have is they're looking for common interests too much, which is going to be a problem, especially for some of my NTs and types like that they want to talk about some super nerdy shit. And most of the time, they're not going to find anybody there who's going to talk about that. You have to try to not look for having the same interests, but looking for a connection with the other person. This is almost like typing again. This is where you're kind of saying, okay, you're interested in those things, but why? What is it about those things you're passionate about? Okay, I can relate to your passion about this particular thing or why you would choose to do that. That's kind of the same reason I would choose to do this, or the passion I have for that over here. Now we can relate on some kind of a FI passion kind of thing, right? Where's she at? Oh, she's on the train. But these conversation skills, he's learning to sort of like, how do I relate to somebody? How do I connect with them? This is kind of really the bread and butter that's needed, especially if we're talking about, what is that? Okay. Anyway, especially if we're talking about some of my types that really struggle to talk to people, these are the things they really need to work on. Finding the commonality in somebody else. It's not that you like the same thing I like. Are you interested in the same thing I'm interested in? It's more, what about those things is interesting to you? What is it that you're trying to do with your life? Where are you trying to go with stuff? You're trying to get into those deeper conversations, which, to be honest, feels very FI-ish. Feels like you're in FI territory. So I feel bad for my FI polars right there. But that's a big deal. What's going on here? I'm back to being interested in LIEs again for now. Interested in what way? That you think you're an LIE? Or are you looking to have some fun with LIEs? And of course, in theory, apparently. Right. What brought me into Socionics and Typology? A long, long time ago. Oh, crap. It's one of those stories of like being given an MBTI test. Like, hey, check this out. Why don't you try this? You might be interested. Okay, tried it. Came up with my score. Started getting more interested in that. And eventually kept bouncing around until I've been through a whole bunch of typology systems until I got to Socionics. Why do I like typology stuff? I'm one of those people that likes to try to understand people. How can I understand people better? How can I make more of use of that? And by understanding people better, you can have better relationships, better everything. At the very least, you can understand yourself, hopefully, and why certain things happen. So it's kind of the quick answer. Yeah. And eventually got the Socionics, which I think is just has more accuracy. It's better in a lot of ways, but not perfect. It does have a few fatal flaws, in my opinion. It's amazing. I feel like the plan has worked. I have a ton of like deltas and gammas and stuff showing up around here. Like, yeah. What's going on here? Thoughts on the credibility of socio-duality in the context of romantic relationships? Yeah, but despite my respect for LSI's ideological general consistency, I prefer ESI's kinship. On the credibility, I'm not a big fan of it in terms of, I don't believe that you should be narrowing down your interests to your dual or just people within your quadra. I don't think so. I think there's other things that are more important when it comes to who you find attractive, who you're interested in dating, and so on. I always can't help but going into Helen Fisher's kind of approach. So if you're a testosterone, estrogen, dopamine, serotonin, if those of you who are familiar with Helen Fisher, and if you're not, you should. To me, I noticed that works out a lot better. I like estrogen types. If I can tell that you're an estrogen type, that's going to pique my interest right away. Even without really knowing what your Socionics type is, but I can tell that you're estrogen. You already got my attention. And now I'm going to start to talk to you and get closer. So there's things like that that are more important, in my opinion. Interestingly, you have ESI instead of the LSI because they have a lot of things in common. There's a lot of functions. There's a lot of elements that they share in the same functional spots. They're both known to be hard asses at times. What's going on here? This is going to be depends on the person, right? This is going to be subjective. For you, you might have a great radar for FI. Some other people might have a good radar for SE or FE or whatever, things like that. At this point, I'm starting to feel like SE is probably the one I can see the easiest. It's probably the easiest one to see, let's face it. But NI as well. There's a few that I can kind of see, so it's subjective. This is where I do kind of get on board with some of the socionic stuff. While I don't say that you should or have to date within your quadra and date your dual, I do think there are limits. So a lot of times dating your conflictor, that's probably not going to work. The supervisory relationship has been an interesting one that's been brought up. It sounds on paper like that would be a bad relationship, but it seems like there's a number of people that do the supervisory relationship and do it well. It's not a problem. It works out. So FI polar, like I know about any of this. Okay. See what you, I don't know, wait for you to say more about that. And yeah, dating your dual is terribly impractical. You're going to sit around waiting for just your dual? Come on, you're limiting yourself way too much. That's with that. But understanding your type, understanding your weaknesses, or what it is you're looking for, that's important. That's what you should be focusing on. That's what all this dating and stuff is important. So people need to ask yourself, what are you interested in? Who do you like? What is the characteristics of the sort of person you're interested in? You should know that. You should try to figure that out before you go out there looking. It's like going hunting, but you don't know what you're hunting for. You need to know what your prey is. And you need to try to know what are your weaknesses. Do you need to maybe dress better, work on your conversation skills, maybe not be the fly on the wall who never talks to anybody? You know, these are the areas where we start really reflecting a lot, using typology to help us figure out who are you, what are you about, what do you want? Now that we have that, we can try to figure out how we can best get that. You know, now I feel bad for all these poor LIEs. There's several people who comment like this, like an LIE is nothing but a walking piggy bank for them to just live off of. Hannah, tell me more. Tell me more, because this, well, I could relate to it. Let's put it that way. I relate to this a lot. It seems to be my setup. Like I said, in my case, I think of myself as an LIE until proven otherwise, and I've got an EII. So here we go. What's this? Okay, well, you're welcome. And INFP and IEI. Again, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of superficial similarity there. So that happens a lot, particularly for people coming out of MBTI or all the other systems. They typically are one of those two, and then they come to Socionics and they flip and they become the other one, something like that. There are some noticeable differences between them, though. SE valuing, IEIs do kind of like SE. In many cases, they either find it attractive or they like to do it a little bit themselves. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I was interpreting this as IEI or EII, but you might have just meant the same type, IEI, INFP, maybe. That just occurred to me. Whoopsie. We'll get back to that. that's damn, that's mean. Shit. Pretty damn sure my dad is an LSI, and I'd hate to tell him that his sex is terrible. So, one of the things to keep in mind a lot, there's a lot of descriptions and talk of certain types that can be really extreme. It gets really carried away, and can make certain types look way too heavy-handed about a certain thing. So if it's an LSI, there's a lot of descriptions and talk that make them sound like they're always these drill sergeants or these people who are political activists and they're militants. They're going to go around stomping on people, and there's a lot of LSIs that are not that extreme, you know. So I noticed that a lot with many types. They people tend to explain them in the most extreme ways because it's easy to explain them that way. It makes a clear picture in our minds what it is you're trying to describe, but it can get carried away. I don't know the types, but I know I want a testosterone and not an IEI weeby. I'm assuming you've done Fisher's thing since you mentioned testosterone. Yeah. Well, good luck. I know some IEIs are going to get all pissed at me, but when are they not? A lot of IEIs, let's face it, it's just not a type that comes across in this masculine testosterone type of way. If that's the sort of guy or girl that you're looking for, IEIs usually they don't behave like that. It's just not their way. You're looking at a very spiritual, philosophical, deep thinker. They're not somebody who really gets up and takes action much. So good luck with that. See, again, this too much based on theory. Too much based on theory. I prefer to say know your type and know yourself apart from your type. Forget your type. Look, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. Now, how do I improve? Or how do I find the sort of person that would complement me? Where would I find such a person? Where would I find those people? Do you mind, bro? What in the world would you? Darn dog. If you want to date your, okay, I'm guessing dual hop on Socionics Discord. Wow, it's really getting freaky in the Discord servers, bro. Boy, and oof. I can imagine if you're looking for certain types, it's gonna be hard to talk to them on the Discord servers. Hard. So again, my EII, ESIs, shit. These types they're pretty introvert. They're probably not even gonna be on the Discord server. So good luck with that. Be FE polar, but not freaking robot. I feel like I'm FE polar. I don't like hate, actually overly loud, emotionally charged environment, but laugh aloud and express irritation often. Again, it's kind of like the saying before about descriptions getting too carried away. They exaggerate things to prove a point, to just get at the point, So with ILIs, same problem. They sometimes kind of exaggerate the lack of FE. Having said that, there are some ILIs you'll run into that they're like a robot. It's wow. But there's others that are not that bad. There's other ILIs that'll tell you, hey, listen, I don't mind socializing, like you just said. And they'll Tell you, look, I'm aware of the social atmosphere and all that stuff. I'm aware of it. You know, I'm not totally blind to that stuff. I'm not crazy about the blind thing. I'm not crazy about that either. When people talk about this is your blind function, like you're totally blind and you can't see it, I'm not crazy. Some people are that bad. They definitely are. Some people really are. But there's others, they're aware, they see it, but they just don't really care that much. It's this thing that they just kind of don't use. Well, would you look at this? Look at Hannah. Good for you, Hannah. Good for you. See that? You're going to make all these other people jealous. All these other people trying to get themselves an LIE so they have a trust fund forever. You know, like, see, you're going to make them jealous. Good for you, Hannah. Well done. Anyway, and this is another case of quasi-dual, semi-dual, excuse me, semi-dual. And it works. Okay, a lot of people laughing. Listen, come on. LSIs, remember, they're a very physical type. Hopefully they at least know how to put that energy to good use. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Thinking individuals, they look like thinkers. You just think, oh, yeah, okay. And yep. So I'm sure it happens. The Mirage relationship, IEI-ILE, for example, is pretty good match. Well, yeah, I would say that's probably would work quite well. I've seen P's and IEIs get along swimmingly, particularly when you see them just like vibing out, talking about philosophy and just really TIing the shit out of something. You see that a lot. I feel like you can just look at Jack and Michael Pierce talking, and it's like the beautiful bromance going on right there over philosophy and stuff. So you could totally see that working out. Sometimes, you know what? It's one of my theories or thoughts. Let's call it. I don't want to call it a theory. That sounds too much. But I feel a lot of times like you can put a line through the board in Socionics and divide alpha and beta on one side and gammas and deltas on the other, as if alphas and betas just kind of get each other a little bit better, the whole TIFE thing, and then gammas and deltas kind of get each other a little bit better, with TE and FI being valued now. It's just an observation of mine, just something I feel. I guess superficial, I strive to live and show others a pragmatic way of living. Well, yeah, and in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. How long have you guys been together, I wonder? I'm curious to see if by being around each other long enough, you've helped to really develop each other. Curious. I would probably guess an ESI. It seems to work better. Again, something about the two of them being very introverted. That part kind of works nicely. And probably somebody from like a Delta, I would say, could work nicely for an ILI. Feels like LIEs and ILIs seems to be a mixed bag. Yeah. What happened here? That would be ES. Yeah, well, yeah, same answer. And more people saying the same thing. It seems to be kind of common. It seems to be common enough that it comes to mind. ESI and ILIs. SLEs are so overrepresented in socionic spaces. Yes. Yeah. They're one of about 3 or 4 that you see them a lot. It's a lot. I'm okay with SLE. Well, I have a mixed bag with SLEs. There's some things about them I really admire, and there's some things I can't stand about them, and I think makes them horrible human beings. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. But I don't know. I'm not bothered by the amount of SLEs. One of the things I like is if you come out of MBTI stuff, you tend to see a lot more NFs and NTs, or at least people who think they are. When you come to Socionics, you start seeing a lot of SLEs hanging around a lot more often. So at least it's nice to see a sensor being very active and showing you that they can be quite intelligent. It's a nice transition out of MBTI to see that. But anyhow, in Socionics, you see a lot of ILEs, LIIs, SLEs, a fair amount of IEIs. And occasionally a few people coming out of gammas like ILIs, an LIE every once in a while. Those are the types you tend to see a lot kind of popping up in Socionics, which leads to certain problems of other types being underrepresented. That's why I feel sorry for like deltas in particular. They're at the bottom of the Socion, like nobody ever remembers them. They're not loud types, so they don't bring a lot of attention to themselves. You know? Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big reason. Again, this goes back to the dating stuff. SLEs, they let you know they're there. These are not shy. They go for what they want. If they like you and they're interested, they're coming to get you. It gives them a great advantage in the early dating game. And they don't mind being playful and fucking around, having a good time when you need to have that attitude. But yeah, SLEs are not flies on the wall. So when they're around, you know they're around. Some awareness, but then when there is too much FE, it just pisses me off. Yeah. This, by the way, too much FE, I feel like this is something I notice it more with gammas, but you could definitely you'd expect that blah 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 blah. You expect that deltas would also have this kind of problem. Gammas, I notice a lot, tend to get kind of irritated with too much FE going on. Yeah, I've seen that talked about a lot. People giving speeches and it's like all feeling, it's all FE shit. And you're just like, okay, yeah, but I want some substance. Give me something practical you're actually trying to achieve and stop all this touchy-feely shit. Like, we got it. Move on. But in general, most of my best friends were SEEs. Okay. Shit. Again, SEEs are another mysterious type that gets a little bit of a weird vibe. They're talked about very, very oddly, depending on who you're listening to or who you're reading. This is a type that the descriptions of them can vary quite a bit. And even when you're seeing people who are SEEs, have been typed SEEs multiple times, you can see a lot of differences between one and another. There's a lot of variation. And again, SEEs and LIEs have a lot in common. There's a lot of overlap going on in there. So they can sometimes be a little difficult to tell the difference, depending on their age. Pretty mellow naturally, they constantly seem to try to massage my emotions to round me up. Yeah. Yeah, again, back to what we were saying before with the fee. And if you're EII, then I see that even more. Again, EIIs typically are flies on the wall. They're they really like to hang back. They don't like too much attention on them, usually. Um, of course, you can have an exception like an EII who's been in theater for years or something, and now they're a little more. On the quadra split you made, yeah, it's something I've noticed. I've picked up on that, and I made a decision to start really leaning into my gammas and deltas a bit more. I noticed that they just get forgotten about, and I think part of the reason for that is because a lot of the creators of many of these systems are TI users. They're TI people. They're LIIs or they're ILEs or even IEIs and types of SLEs, whatever. And it's a lot of TI shit going on. And it really seems like they don't understand FI in particular. They seem fucking dumb to FI. They just don't get it. So when they're writing descriptions and talking about things, some things are just not right. You could see it. Um, you could also see how deltas just get lost. Like nobody remembers to talk about them, or they're at the very back of the Socion, so it takes a while for anybody to start addressing the deltas. And I feel bad for the deltas. It's like, the fuck? Your type depends on the type of people you attract. No, no. I think this. Mm, we'd have to flush that out a little bit more. No. Um, you can just as easily run into some people who don't really care that much about running into more people of their base. Maybe they're trying to find their suggestive function, right? Because they're seeking it. So there's a lot of ways we can go around this. And met on a socio Discord. Do you see this, people? There is hope. There's love everywhere. You can have it anytime. Get yourself on a Discord server. You never know who you meet. You never know. Hey, your lover could be right here on this discussion. Could be someone else asking a question right here. I'd love that. Facilitating love on my channel. Be fantastic. As a delta type, alphas are good for fun, gammas are better for longer and deeper relations, and betas, well, it depends. You know what? I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of gammas and deltas would agree with you. Other gammas and deltas. And that's kind of the way it's supposed to break down, right? Alphas they're nice, they're fun, they're light-hearted people, that kind of thing. Gammas are more serious-minded. They're looking for more serious, longer, deeper, important stuff. By the way, I love the innuendo. Gammas are longer, deeper. And betas, well, depend. Betas are, can be dramatic, especially the extroverted ones. Being diligent. To rest rather than natural work ethic. The latter is. Well, I would agree with you that I would not think of diligent and SI pull. I just don't put diligent and SI together like that. There's other reasons why you might be diligent at something or not. Introverted sensing, the physical space around you and your relationship to the things around you. Right? How does it make you feel? Is it comfortable? Are you comfortable? Is the room right? All these other things. This is all SI shit. Diligent doesn't necessarily mean that. Again, as an EII, understandable. It's cute that you wrote my SLE. You have yourself a little SLE in your pocket. You go, girl. Wow, you sound very, definitely a very, very mellow, introverted EII. But again, that's still pretty common for EIIs. So part of the reason why when it comes to the dating, EIIs can be one of those types of struggle. They can have a hard time. They can be waiting around a long time for somebody to come along. Well, there you go. You have to find somebody nice and calm. SLE women throw the whole dating theory in the bin. How so? As I was mentioning before, is a big deal. And there are certain types that just have a natural feminine flavor to them, like an EII, IEI, types like that. So if you're male and you're one of those types, you might run into some problems in the dating world. Flip that around, SLEs. SLE is usually a very masculine type. So if you're SLE and female, it could be kind of tough. That could be kind of tough. Either because you're coming across as too aggressive, too testosterone, too masculine, or it's none of those things and you're just bored because all the guys you're running into are too soft, too weak, too boring, and so these are the kind of the fun areas where when we talk type and dating and stuff, things get interesting. These kinds of like weird little nuances. I've never met an SLE woman personally. Don't worry, just wait. Again, you can look around for a lot of celebrities that are like that. SE base, very restless, always on the go, very good with people, very charming. And as an SE base, I'm going to go out on a limb and think SEE, maybe. Nah. See, this is one of the issues with gammas. Again, gammas can be their own worst enemy, because gammas can some of the gammas, like the NT gammas, can just kind of suck at finding the right person, not spending enough time with that, or being so independent and focused on career goals. What do I want to do with my life in terms of career? Not very family oriented, not very warm and cuddly. And all of those things can be very tricky when we're trying to date somebody. Very, very tricky. Deltas are so mellow, man. Deltas are just, again, they're the capybaras of Socionics. It's another animal for you guys to look up. Capybaras from South America. They get along with everything. What does it look like when LIEs or gammas in general use FE? It looks like a train wreck. What does it look like? I don't think there's anything specific to point out. FE can come across in a lot of different ways. So you can use FE to stir different kinds of emotions, make a different emotional impact in a room, create a different environment, whatever. The alpha quadra using FE often try to maintain a more fun, lighthearted, positive atmosphere. They generally like that and avoid negativity. Gammas are more likely to bring negativity into shit, either because they're pissed off at something, yelling at somebody, they themselves are in a mood. So it's almost like a negative use of FE. If you wanted to put charges, it's almost like negative FE. But let's face it, FE and gamma is not something you see a lot of, with the exception perhaps of SEE. They can be pretty good with it, but it's usually not a big thing. So it's almost absent in gammas. Let's put it that way. Bet you're talking about the SLEs. Damn. SLEs on SLEs. Oof. SLEs can be, again, really good at attracting people and hooking up with people. They're good on that front end side of it, but maintaining the relationship, having the right person, that's when they can really start to fuck up, where the FI polar can really start to creep in. Yeah, except I hate it. My NE goes nuts in social outings, and suddenly someone from the functions is trying to exchange contact details. Like, oh, I'm going into the ether now. Bye. Wow. See the introversion. And this is what I'm referring to. Some certain types can be too fucking introverted. In just the conventional sense of the word introverted, and it just works against them. This becomes a problem. It can also make these types very difficult to talk to. So if you want to have a good conversation, which is another lost art, the art of conversation, it's a lot of people that suck at it. And I hate to say it, there's a lot of girls that really suck at it. In many cases because they never had to work on it, especially the ones that are really attractive. They can just sit there and guys will always show up. Misinterpreted function, maybe. You're going to need some more specifics. To relate to when you value TEFI and you always think exception depends on situation. Yeah. I agree. I hear that in certain descriptions from people, and they're talking about certain things, and it's like, no, you don't quite have it right. Or, for example, if we're talking about the TI polar types, hey, we're back. Okay, cool. Haven't totally been lost. Anyway, I was saying, yeah, the TI polar types are sometimes written out like they're stupid, like they can't follow any bit of logic at all, and it's like, no. Or they're too inconsistent, and you can't figure out what they're doing. Particularly for like Rust. Rusted typology thought that SEEs are the biggest snakes, most manipulative, which to me, I'm like, no, they're not. But maybe the reason you think that they're snakes is because they are TI polar and you're FI polar, and you just, to you, if they don't spell it out for you what it's going on, you don't understand them. You don't get what they're trying to do, what their character is about. You don't get it because you don't understand FI. Maybe that's the reason you think they're manipulative, but it's like they're not the most manipulative. It's not even how that shit would work, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a lot of anyway. Yeah, I'm often underwhelmed by explanations about FI. Yeah, it's a lot of them. They don't get it. They don't get it, and it doesn't help again that you have a lot of SLEs or ILEs that are trying to explain shit and they're FI polar. This is sad. That's you poor girl. I get your pain. I get your pain. That's meh. Okay, hold on. Base mobiles will enjoy creative and suggest for the same IME. Example, FE lead to FE creative. Well, maybe. Guess it's something to keep an eye on. See if it plays out like that. It's like, I gotta think about it a little bit. Like, TE types need bullet points. You know what? In some ways, yes, but I'm curious what you mean by that. Because I'm like, what's the context? Oh my god, I got all these comments. Diverted and got some serious health, so yeah, male takes. He's very introverted, got some serious health, so yeah, I mean male. Yeah, I. This is one of those that and it's just no bullshit, straight talk. EIIs and males, in typical Western kind of culture, dating is not going to be easy for them. Mm. You like you don't have to do as much. Yeah, EIIs take a lot of time. This is from what I've seen, the experience. Again, married to one, they take their time about dating. They really are they're passively scanning, looking for the right person, and they don't mind waiting a long time. And once they get into a relationship, they're slow to get out of one. Um, it just time and time again, that's just how EIIs operate. Another reason why, to me, Taylor Swift, she can't be an EI. Just looking at her dating history alone, there's more I could point to, but just her dating history alone is like, that's not an EII. Like, no way in hell. I don't buy it. What was this? Apparently, they're all too soft, and tougher guys apparently don't exist too. Yeah, that's exactly what I expect for an SLE female. Yeah, just looking at guys like they're all too soft and whatever. Cursed? Why are they cursed? Feed them on the only ones who can really use it. What the fuck is going on here? SEs are the snakes, politicians. So yeah, def fucking OP. See, I don't buy this shit. This idea of like they're like the politicians and they're sneaky little bastards. Is just I don't buy it. It might be my point of view, but to me, it's like they're not this clever, deceptive creature. Like, no. A lot of them, in fact, are very authentic, in your face, raw. This is who I am, what I'm about. Like, take it or leave it. I don't give a fuck. A lot of them are like that. They're telling you who they are. They're not hiding it at all. High FI can never be manipulative and play games. The only question is how aware of it they are. Again, fuck if I know. I haven't seen that shit. It's never really been an issue for me. Now, could they? Do they have the ability to be manipulative like that? Yeah. Good feeling ability? Yeah, they have the ability. The capability is there. Do I see them doing that a lot? Not really. They kind of want to do their own thing. They want to go their own way. They're not interested in fucking everybody else. So I'm not sure when and if I'm using FE. I'm not sure what it looks like when I try to do it or how I'm making the other person feel. Wow. You're not sure when and if you're using it. Although you said the other person, so you're also implying a one-on-one situation. So this could be more FI, right? FE can be with one person, but it's a lot easier to notice it in a group setting. The bigger the group, the better. Yeah, pretty much. That's a start. And it's more about creating a mood, an atmosphere, something you're trying to join in on that can be shared by many people. Yeah, but this is kind of meaningless, right? If EI males are hot, they have no problem. Well, boy band hot. Well, duh. If you're that hot, that's going to compensate for a lot of issues, right? But how many people are really that hot? High FI can be like that in their inner circle. I'm assuming you're meaning manipulative and so on. They can try to be. I don't know. My I don't know. I guess my fucking FI radar is good. I don't know. I don't get fucked with like that, so I haven't really seen that kind of shit. SE snake, it depends on maturity, enneagram, and other personal traits. When I was younger, I had good SE friend. Pretty manipulative. I have another one now. Well, you're right on maturity level is always important, right? That's always going to affect everybody, every type. Personal experience too, like life experience. Where do they come from? What's their background? What's the culture? Do they come from a broken home with all kinds of problems and stuff like that? You know, all these things have to be factored in. And if you want, you could throw enneagram and all that in there too, I suppose. But I don't find SEs to be this snaky kind of shit people refer to. It's like, okay. Hey, it's Goblin. What's going on from New Zealand? One of these live streams, I'll definitely join. Well, you got to keep abreast because I'm popping in and out all the time. You can see I'm a chatty Cathy. Most actively manipulative type is EIE by far. More arguably capable at manipulation, but with less resistance to follow. All right, so when it comes to the manipulation, I thought I would make a video about this to respond to Rust's video, and maybe I will. I just felt like I was being a little gimmicky, but whatever. To me, if you're manipulating somebody, you're kind of implying that the other person is unaware of what you're doing. They don't know, or by the time they figure it out, it's too late. Right? Manipulation has a certain quality of deception to it. You're not going to be able to deceive everybody equally. Even certain types, it's not going to work. So for example, if it's EIE, they're very good with the feeling, all that stuff, fine. But we talked about how gammas, for example, and deltas can often be repulsed by FE. So if EIEs come around with too much of that FE shit, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We're not even going to want to listen to them. So they don't even have a chance to deceive you and fuck with you. They just don't. IEIs can be better at this because they usually are more subtle and like to play the long game too. Having said that, an IEI is more likely to be manipulative with, let's say, an SLE. They're dual. Makes all the sense in the world. They might be manipulated with certain other types, but they're not likely to do all that well with an LSE or an LIE. These are all types that usually kind of clash with the IEIs. They're kind of telling the IEI to get lost, right? So my point is, this whole idea of like one type is a super manipulator, it's a pain. I don't. I'm not crazy about that. Depends on who you're trying to manipulate and in what circumstance. Stereotypical villain mastermind. I could see this if somebody hates politicians and they're like, I hate politics, and there's a lot of EIEs who end up being prime ministers and presidents and shit like that. Okay. I wouldn't call an EIE a mastermind. Like, what are they, Lex Luthor now? Like, it's a bit much. The two SEE guys I know somewhat decently are super transparent and sort of no bullshit types, far from manipulative, very loud and charismatic for sure, though. Yes, yeah. This is what my view of most SEs. Yeah. These are types that are the SE, they're out there going after what they want, doing what they do. They're willing to confront people and clash openly. They're not long-term strategizers, right? The NE is lower, or sorry, NI is low. It's just not their preferred way to do things. And one of the things these types are about, that with FI valuing, they give a shit about their authentic self. This is who I am. This is what I believe in. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be me in front of all of you, whatever. I'm putting it all out there front and center. So there's no reason for you to be fooled. That's why I'm not big on this idea of SEEs being master manipulators. Like, nah. It's even a type that they're not FE valuing. They're good at it and can do some FE stuff, but they don't really give a shit about their reputation and their viewpoint. So they don't mind just being very confrontational, putting their shit out there front and center, whether someone likes it or not. You're that hot like Backstreet Boys. I'm going to say it's me. It's like, right on. I'm gonna take that compliment and just run with it. Thank you, though. I have heard from somewhere that while alpha types don't like negativity, deltas don't like intensity. Sounded like a vague statement, but could you give an example of an interpersonal yeah, you know what? In general, I kind of agree with this. Of an interpersonal conflict. Let me see how I can make it more interpersonal. Alphas and deltas, again, being SI valuing quadras, they like things to be kind of easy, relaxing, and chill. Now, for deltas, it can come from the standpoint of there's no need to get hysterical. There's no need to make things overly complicated. And if you are, then now you're just being overly dramatic and annoying. That could be the attitude for a lot of deltas. Delta quadra is often described as like the person in retirement years. I know that sucks for those of you delta. You don't want to hear that, but it's just an abstract description. Mostly because deltas are not these hard-charging, super ambitious people that want to go out and try to change the world and try to push hard to make things change. That's very SE stuff. That's betas and gammas. Deltas are kind of, it's like the old person who's past that now. They're 70 years old, they're 65, and they're like, I'm too old for that shit. Listen, I want to do my thing, go home, relax, take it easy. Unlike alphas, they're pragmatic though too. They're not as enthusiastic about random shit. So in terms of interpersonal, if you're being a pain in the ass, if you're causing too much intensity, you're being too dramatic, too hysterical, someone's being too aggressive, someone's not respecting the calm, relaxed mood, or they're trying to push everyone too much to get to work. Let's go, let's do it faster, more. A lot of deltas are like, relax, like we don't chill, we don't need that shit, we don't like that stuff. And if you push hard enough, deltas are really going to push back, particularly the ST deltas, SLIs and LSEs. Those two are tough enough that if you start pushing on them too much, they will push back. They can get up in your face. They are not going to like that stuff. Betas and gammas are the ones that can be very intense and want to change the world and make shit happen now. And let's go. Time's a wasting. Let's get after it. Deltas and alphas don't like that shit. They don't think like that. Nah, you go on, girl. What's going on here? It's my EIIs. Why does Russ keep saying betas are racist? Wouldn't that be an FISI thing? Delta is aristocratic too. And why does Russ say black people are SE based? Is that true? Why is it? I would think that I don't think he's saying that they're racist. Knowing Rust, he's either making a joke or he's trying to make a point about something where he's just trying to illustrate a point in the extreme. But I don't think he's actually saying that those quadras are racist like that. Black people are SE based. Nah, I'm having a, he can't be saying that because that's bullshit. Black people are SE. All black people are SE based. That's crazy. No. There's something lost in translation here. Something is missing there. I know that when Russ tries to explain things, he likes to use these really big, broad generalizations just to make a point. So he might have said something like TI is categorical thinking, where one of his favorites, like all people with purple hair have mental illness. He might actually believe that. But then again, he might not. It doesn't matter. He's just trying to make a point of TI can sometimes be very, very generalized like that and not give a shit about the individual. Yeah, and racism, that's not going to be. Racism is a cultural thing. That's not anything to do with a specific element. However, thought you could, just for the point of illustrating what an element can sound like, again, go back to the idea of saying an entire race of people are blah, 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 blah. That's you're painting with such a huge broad brush. You're totally disregarding any individuals within that community. You care nothing for the individuals. They're all the same. They're all grouped by one thing. There's a certain TIFE thinking process going on in there. A quadrant can be racist, but betas are the likeliest to be aggressively, authentically racist. Again, this is a very delicate topic. Betas are the most likely to be passionate about some ideology, some idea, some concept, and then put it into action. So hypothetically, you could have some betas who happen to be racist, and especially if they're the ST betas, they may desire to really do something about that, like something aggressive, something serious. That's possible, but they're not the only ones. Again, other quadras can also be racist. Other quadras can do crazy shit too. Or maybe this is the case for me being TE ego. Yeah, this could be. And if you're TE ego, I mean, there's a good chance that some of these types, yeah, they're coming to you because you've either got something or you know stuff that they can use. It's kind of one of the things that TE people offer to the world. We know shit or we have shit. So that could be a thing. IEEs and SEEs, especially IEEs, can be space cadets who don't always know what they're doing exactly. And in a clumsy way, just kind of go about something and they don't look so good in the process. These are types that can sometimes fail to pay enough attention to you because they're too busy bouncing around doing stuff. And now that can be irritating because you feel like that person's not paying enough attention to you. Like, I thought you were my close special friend and you seem to be bouncing around too much. And I don't like that because now I don't feel like I'm your special friend anymore. It could be that kind of thing going on. I find the aristocratic democratic thing weird because it is weird. And I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. It's another one of those weird Brennan dichotomy terms that the wording and the way it's described is not very good. So anybody who's played with this shit for a while knows you either have to reword these terms, think about it a little bit, and kind of rephrase a lot of stuff to make it make sense. So yeah, the aristocratic democratic, yeah, I personally don't even find them to be all that useful. And once again, democratic makes a little bit of sense for the alphas. They are kind of democratic in the most pure sense of the word. And betas can be a little aristocratic in their approach to things in the classic sense of the word. But gammas and deltas, this doesn't apply very well to anymore. There's a lot to go into, but ultimately it's just not that helpful. I'm an ILE and I love negativity. That's actually pretty common for ILEs though. I think there's a nuance there though. Negativity, like they kind of like to troll, they like to fuck around, they like to watch other people cause chaos. ILEs can enjoy that stuff. But they're usually not types that are genuinely hostile the way certain other quadras can be. There's always an exception to every rule. It's like before you start anecdotally going, I hate everybody, it's like deltas don't like intensity, true, but LSEs are sometimes an exception to that. From my experience, people like Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman is an LSE. I have to think about that one. Could be though. That doesn't sound like a crazy typing at all to me. And you're right about this. Of the 4 deltas, the most intense is going to be the LSE. They're more likely to be very hardworking, task-oriented, let's get it done. And they are the type that is known to sometimes step on people's toes, make people feel bad, and it's accidental. LSEs can sometimes really feel bad in being too pushy and bossy and stuff like that. They don't really want to come across that way, but they sometimes do. And they don't want to. Every quadra has certain specific types that are kind of at the extremes for their quadra. So in terms of intensity, hard work, get it done, kick ass and take names, LSE is that one for deltas. The most fun, outgoing, playful, I'm gonna have a great time, is usually the IEEs. They almost seem a little alpha-ish in their approach. So we can do it with every single quadra. Has certain ones that are a little bit much. When it says are mad dramatic though. It can depend. It could vary on the IEE in question. They can vary quite a bit. You can run some IEEs that, let's say, a little more matured and they're more professional in their attitude and their approach. Really looking to be useful and help people in a very practical way, doing practical things for others. That's something that IEEs really want to do, and it's something that Delta as a whole wants to do. They really want to try to give back and help others more than any of the other quadras. Are both aristocratic? I would have guessed TI valuing types are all aristocratic and F5 valuing. Yeah, no. I think it has more to do with the it has more to do with, like, call it a structure of hierarchies or governance. So alphas really prefer the most democratic. Everyone is equal. Everyone gets a fair shot. Nobody's excluded, and nobody's above anybody else, really. It's alphas, right? Super democratic. Betas are more hierarchical or enjoy organizations that are kind of hierarchical. So now there is literally a hierarchy where someone is on top. Certain groups are on top of other groups. Certain groups are more special and elitist compared to other groups, and that's the aristocracy. They're like aristocrats. That's beta type of thing. Gammas go back to being democratic again, that they're not really interested in the hierarchy so much, and kind of like want everyone to just do their own thing with nobody being on top of you anymore. So it's kind of back to being democratic again. Where it really starts to get weird is when you talk about deltas. Deltas are kind of somewhere in between all of this, at like back to being aristocratic, but more in this sense of like, we're doing our own thing quietly. And we will listen to others. We will follow duty and rules and other stuff, but it's kind of it. Again, that's a weak ass explanation, but the whole idea of democratic and aristocratic is just kind of shitty. It doesn't go it just doesn't work well. And if you were to try to type an SLE and ask them about, are you aristocratic? Not all of them are going to, a lot of them would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not that. So it's just not a very useful dichotomy. Again, it's another weird thing. Just fine. Yeah, it's just almost good. So, just think you were using the wrong medical term there. I think you're trying to say schizoid, and really IEIs are not the most schizoid. SLI, it would be the most schizoid out of the deltas, and maybe EII a little bit after them. IEEs are yes, IEs are the most social and outgoing out of the deltas. Now, if you're trying to say schizophrenic, a few of them can seem possibly a little schizophrenic when they're like really crazy NE. I suppose the blue-haired social justice warriors. Again, another stereotype that is not very helpful. Can you find some that are like this? Yes, you will. Will you find others that are not social justice warriors, blue-haired types at all? You're going to find a lot of them like that too. So it's not a helpful stereotype. What isn't that is actively petitioning, championing, helping out some cause. Usually they're trying to help other people. You'll see deltas, particularly the delta NFs, are very, very big on helping people that they consider to be the unheard, the minorities, the down and out people. So my wife, for example, would be very interested in helping the deaf and the blind and people with those kind of impairments, people who can't even call 911 because the other person, the operator, can't understand them, right? They can't speak. They need sign language interpreters. They need help with, whatever, these kinds of things. I've seen EIIs who are very interested in like hospice care because they think it's important to help somebody at their last few days of life, that is a huge, profound moment to help somebody at their most terrified place. uh, EIs will talk like they'll be interested in things like that. They might be interested in saving the whales and joining some kind of thing like that. IEEs can do this too, can do a lot of this kind of stuff. I know an IEE, was typing recently, close friend of mine, big on disabilities, helping everybody with all kinds of disabilities. She's championing the disability community all across America, really, and really actively helping them in the medical community. She's a PA herself. So it's very common for Delta NFs to be these bleeding heart trying to help other people. And there's no real tangible benefit for it. There's no money in that. There's no real glory or prestige. They're drawn to things like that. Very, very common. What they need is help at figuring out how to do it and motivation to go do it sometimes. That's where they need their TE duels and people with more SE to help them out on that kind of stuff. Ooh, okay, like only betas are aristocratic, TI value, and gammas democratic value. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't. Again, this whole aristocratic, democratic. I'm not a big fan of the. I keep saying Renin dichotomies, and I know that someone's gonna like correct me and go, well, technically, there's 15 Renin dichotomies, including the quadras and this. It's like, yes, I got it. That's what I mean when I say the Renin dichotomies is this crap, right? Aristocratic, democratic, carefree versus whatever the fuck it is, not carefree, right? Obstinate, yielding, tactical, strategic. Those particular dichotomies. The wording gets crazy. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. Other people like Jack and a few others have gone through that and kind of reworded stuff and tweaked things and made them better in a lot of cases. Still, I question the utility in some of that. I feel like it's not necessary. It's just not worth your time. Would you ever do a debate with any other Socionics channel's personality? Well, yes. I mean, simple answer, yes. Debate. I'm usually not a big fan of debates because debates are like too formal. You're saying your shit, I'm saying mine. There's a referee in the middle and stuff. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. But have a conversation. You want to talk about something and this is my opinion on something, that's your opinion, okay, whatever. At the end of the day, it's more about the audience and what they have to say. So the short answer, yes. Let's see. EE, and he fits that description to the T. Okay. The blue-haired SJW description. Gotta be a troll or something. Lamb sauce. Beta's more likely to be racist take. Well, I'm disagreeing with lamb sauce right there on that one. Starting with this, first off, labeling or trying to imply that one quadrant is more likely to be racist, that's a hell of a statement. That's a hell of a statement because nobody wants to be called racist. So, wow, okay. having said that, it's like, again, are you trying to say that when you run into racist people, the majority of the time they're going to be betas? No, I don't buy it. And personally, I'm on the side of racism is more often a cultural thing. It's not like you're born and you suddenly just believe things are racist. You don't pop out of the ground one day thinking I'm an LSE, but I believe in racism. So I don't like this take. I'm disagreeing with Lamb Sauce on that. What he might be saying is, again, that the quadra who is most likely to take action, to start shooting people, to start hitting people, to start segregating people, would be betas. Most likely, because betas make shit happen. They try to change the world and they make it happen. So if that's what Lamb Sauce is trying to get at, then I understand what he's trying to say with that. But got to be cautious about accusing certain groups of being the racist. Like, is Russ saying betas are racist? Self-report? I don't think so. I don't think that's what Russ is saying. I I want somebody to show me that one. I remember Russ likes to exaggerate and say all kinds of crazy shit. He likes to have fun and just fuck around. So careful something doesn't get taken out of context. Yeah, again, this is one of those things that you got to be cautious on this. Betas and alphas are known to be so-called ideological, but you can't go around trying to type people with this idea of, are you ideological? Let me see your ideology. What's your ideology? Are you political? And if not, then you're not. There's a lot of these types. A lot of these types, like SLEs, perhaps may take a long time before they even find a cause that they really believe in, that they really strongly advocate for. It could take them years. I was listening to the discussion on the typing of Marlon Brando, conversation between Jack and Peter Bartle. Hopefully, I'm gonna get Peter Bartle on my channel here, the man, the myth, the legend. And in the case of Marlon Brando, that they think he's an SLE, it took him years before he took up this cause for Native Americans, and then became very ideological and political and that kind of stuff. But it took him a long time to get there. So some of these types, my point is, it could be a long time before they become ideological about anything. Okay, I gotta catch up. I go because NI higher. The most ideological. Yeah, and by the way, ideological, think of it too as like they believe in something. They long and search to believe in a cause and some kind of meaning. It could be a philosophy, a way of life, or religion. Could be a political philosophy of some sort. They're very much looking to believe in a cause of some kind and align themselves to that cause. That's kind of what betas tend to do a lot more. Again, you can run into an SLE who's 20 and is like, bro, I don't believe in shit. I just want to go do my thing. Got it. You don't have to believe in anything quite yet. This is pretty important stuff too. Yeah, usually these are the types that are more trying to develop the ideology. They're the ones probably spending more of their time, even when they're young, trying to come to an ideology or some kind of something they believe in, a cause or spiritual practice, whatever. LSIs might get there too. SLEs are probably the least ideological, the least likely to have some cause they believe in, especially early in life. It may take them a long time before they really believe in something. What's going on here? I assume racism dealt with comfort money. That's why I assumed it would be a delta vibe, at least on a subtle level, even if beta is active. Okay, well, I assume racism dealt with comfort, money, and status. That's why. I think I must be starting to slow down here. I'm like, wait. Racism dealt with comfort, money, and status. That's why I assumed it would be a delta vibe. Mm. Again, when we're playing with this concept of racism, it's a culture thing. It's like a learned behavior, a learned trait that anybody could buy into of any particular type. But not every type is going to be so active at doing something about it. Betas are just the ones that are most active at doing something about whatever they believe in. I thought that it would have been beta STs that are most ideological, ideas, beliefs, which can be characterized by, yeah, basically. Beta STs that are most ideological. Well, because here, you're right in that it's a lot of TI going on with the betas to create this system of ideas and beliefs. But the types that are most in search of something meaningful, deep to believe in, are really the NFs. The beta NFs are spending more time trying to believe in something and find that something because they're focused on it. They're usually ones that get there first. SLEs and sometimes LSIs are kind of in search of what to believe in, of that big cause to go after. And that's where they're complemented by the NFs. That's generally how that plays out. In the real world, it doesn't always happen to be that way. You have LSIs that are very political and ideological and are that way from a fairly young age, and they're on their own. So, in the real world, any one of the betas can become ideological at any time. Alphas, without really realizing it or being too political, alphas are probably try to be the most communist, and that they would want the most perfectly balanced system where nobody is ahead of anybody and everything is fair deal. But ironically, alphas would not likely be that political. The NTs might, but I think it's fair to say that Karl Marx was likely an IEI. Some dispute that, and some might think that he's an ILI because he was talking about economics, and some feel that IEIs wouldn't talk about economics. Blah, 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 blah. I think that's bullshit. To me, I'd put him as an IEI. Yes. Yeah, they can be. Normally, this is part of the growth aspect, which is another thing I got to talk about, the growth of different types. LSEs are sometimes known to be very pushy, a bit more aggressive and bossy, particularly when they're younger. Um, and in a lot of ways, the pushy bossiness is really by accident. They're not trying to hurt your feelings or step on you. They just do that unintentionally. Over time, they learn to not do that. They get better at not doing that shit. Um, they're growing into their NE and FI. So that's helping them to be more open minded and understand people better and not hurt people's feelings more, which really helps when they run into their duels. I suppose, but a good ILF friend of mine is a commie. We clash on this topic all the time. Guess gammas can also be commie. Of course, you can get people who believe in all kinds of shit from any particular quadrant. Um, but if you're just trying to, very broadly speaking, abstract which types, like which quadrant is known to be kind of capitalistic, it's usually gammas. So they would probably have a bigger problem with communism. And the big problem with being suppressed, let's call it, having people over you. Gammas are going to have a real problem with that. Yes, they are. Again, this is why that aristocratic thing it's a bad name. It's just a bad name for deltas. It doesn't work. It's confusing and goofy, and it just doesn't work. Deltas are pretty individualistic. Uh, Again, they're almost as individualistic as gammas. Gammas are just usually in pursuit of certain goals and things, and sometimes just trying to go after those things makes you more independent. You have to be, so that things don't slow you down. Deltas are a little more chill and are more willing to play well with others. Yeah, that kind of works. It's sort of the general idea. EIs and EIEs are kind of more the spiritual, the leaders. This is the idea. This is what we should go towards. This is the social movement that's important. That's generally what they're about. And SLEs and LSIs are the physical muscle that makes it happen, turns it into reality. No, no, it's not. My big five distribution. No, I'm extroverted, very extroverted, which it's obvious. I'm here talking to you guys for over 2 hours. Um, they don't have a calm. No, I'm extroverted and I'm high in my assertiveness. My conscientiousness is actually low. I'm actually shitty on my conscientiousness. Very shitty. Very, very shitty. Like embarrassingly shitty. Um, I am average on disagreeableness. All right, I'm back. Okay, that fucking thing happened. Okay, got some catching up to do. So, where was I? Big five distribution. Yeah, no, I'm extroverted, high on assertiveness. Um, my conscientious really sucks. Average on agreeableness, and I am open to. I'm high on the openness to experience. Was missing. Oh, neuroticism. That's what that com was you were trying. I'm very low on neuroticism. I'm not neurotic at all. So, yeah, yeah. LIE is kind of the best fit for me. Uh, you have different flavors of shit. So I know people can look at me and think I'm an LSE. Somebody would think I'm an SEE. You know, so really, I think those three options. If people want to call me one or the other, it's like fine. They're all close enough for different reasons. NFs can be more ideological because higher and I give them the drive towards inherent meaning. Yeah, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're seeking meaning or creating the meaning themselves. I gotta keep going. SC, but I've read that something in his life he was withdrawn and introverted bibliomaniac. Begs the question of type change in development and sociotypes. No, I would say that this is a good example of SLE. He's still an SLE. Um, of course, it depends on who you're looking at that's typing him. I'm on board with people who think he's SLE. SLEs grow and move towards the NF side, right? They're growing into the FE and the NI. So you're likely to run into SLEs that have a spiritual side, a deeper side, searching for deep meaning side, especially as they get older. It could be biblical stuff or some other philosophical thing. But it's not what they're known for. It's not their public image. Their public image is the badass, extroverted, sensing type. SEEs, on the other hand, are going to kind of grow more into being. It's more about the pragmatism, more about being competent and capable at things, doing things well that are practical for themselves or for others. That's what they're growing towards and getting better at. This is one of those where I disagree with Galenko heavily on that. He thinks Napoleon is an SEE, and that's one person I would fight him on that one. Debate the shit out of him on that thing. Um, okay, Wayne was isn't a paradox. SE with 3 mastery in business and engineering, who's also MMA and stuff. SE might surface. Yeah, yeah. This is one of the things I think is an issue with SEEs. They're often seen as uh, goofy socialites, but you can run into many of them that are highly accomplished people, either with a degree in something or they're big time businessman or MMA fighter or a bit of both, whatever. You can see that. Yeah, Jared, we got it. We know that you know what an SLE is. It's okay. SE polar. You know, between an LSE and an LIE, I would say the bigger, harder worker is the LSE. This is the type that is more down to earth, trying to get things done, and don't get lost thinking about stuff for very long. Okay, they're higher in sensing, really making stuff happen here. How else to explain that? It's really, again, they're higher in sensing. Period. SE and SI. So they take action. They're very task oriented. Let's get things going, and very productive. They are more of that stereotype TE. When people think of TE, that is super duper about the facts, the figures, do it what works. LSE is the type that you're thinking about that really leans heavily into that. LIE, remember, has more of the abstract intuition. So LIEs can be prone to sitting around thinking about shit too long, or things that are not practical in a day-to-day sense. So for the SI, taking care of things around you, working on your car, making sure your house is cleaned up, making sure that your bills and things are paid, making sure that all your other day-to-day tasks, even the little mundane stuff, has been taken care of. LIEs can really space out on that and really not enjoy that stuff. LIEs may be more interested to talk about bigger, deeper topics, broader issues that they think is very important, and not give a crap about the day-to-day stuff, the SI stuff, about comfortable things. Food, it's one I notice. People who love to sit around chit-chatting about how much they love this meal and this nice food, and that might be something you don't give a shit about because you find that trivial and meaningless. Who cares about creating this nice little pleasant, feel-good atmosphere? That's where the SI stuff can really show up a lot. And mentally, LIEs can be very active. They're sitting around, but they're thinking. Parts of their life related to me. Oh, God. Related to weak and unvalued functions, try to develop them a little or just outsource them. It's a bit of both. You can develop them, and one of the best ways to develop them is just you get older, you live, and you learn. I'm a big believer you have to put yourself out there and try different things. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. If you just stay at home on your couch and in the familiar spaces and places you've always known, there's not a lot of room to grow there. You got to get out from the things you're used to doing, and that'll help you grow. Even if it's only about figuring out what your weak areas are, you finally figure them out. Oh, I definitely suck at this. I've seen this enough. Okay. Now that you're aware of that, you can begin to grow. However, there are some areas that are probably better off outsourced. You're never going to get that great at it. You can get a little bit better, sure, but you're never going to be fantastic at it. Like your suggestive, for example. Polar, you're never going to do shit with your polar. You're never going to be that great with your role function. Some of these areas. So it's a bit of both. You can grow them, you can outsource them. Certain types of people always try to, it's like they're trying to better themselves in every way, which is not always going to work. I'm super SEI, bro. You got to go to a personality database and vote that in there. This guy's an SEI. LSEs are more consistent than LIEs when it comes to hard work and day-to-day maintenance. LIEs have spurts of workaholic and burnout. Yeah. In general, yeah. LSEs are much more on task, get it done, keep working until the job is done. Extremely practical in the most layman's terms way of the word practical. LSEs are more of that. LSEs are also can be more good with people, like in a chill way, whereas LIEs can become more aggressive and more intense with people. They show more of that SE, right? As they get older, as they age and start to dive into that more. LSEs are moving away from trying to do so much SE. But you still see a lot of SE in the LSE type in terms of activity, not necessarily aggression, but they're very active people. They're working, physically doing stuff. So that they really are much more of the go-getter than an LIE is. LIE at the end of the day is still like kind of an NT nerd that thinks about certain things or tries to specialize in nerdy topics, let's call it. Heavy pragmatist and heavy technical manager for band. No, I have not really heard of that. No, that's a new one. Ooh. All right, I'm gonna have to get off here soon. It's like, wow, I've been on here for like over 2 hours. Jesus. I think betas are ideological in terms of who a person is. I was complimenting the expertise of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Flow State was probably trash talking or hating him, probably due to his stances. Yeah, and if you wanted to give an example of maybe a beta SLE who's being very ideological, you can see Flow State on his strong opinions when it comes to the criminal justice system, when it comes to some conspiracy theories in economics. Then you see him become a much more politically active, ideological-ish kind of SLE. Could FE role types in some social, especially when making first impression? Oh yeah, of course. It's FE role, so it's not so great. It's kind of weak. And if it's an area that you're not experienced in, a new environment or it's new kinds of people, something you're a little unfamiliar with, you're more likely to come across as awkward or shitty in your FE. Or just not do FE at all. Just kind of quietly stand there and not say anything. By both not valuing FE, deltas can appear friendlier than gammas due to the SE and E. Yep. Yeah. How it, in theory, that's how it should work. And in reality, yeah. Again, gammas with the SE and NI, they're usually trying to get after something. There's some goals that they have, maybe long-term goals or short-term, that they are aggressively pursuing. They might be interested in certain fields or areas that it's stressful by its nature. High-level business where you really got to compete with other businesses, it's very stressful. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. It's not comfortable at all. Or it could be government positions, scientific positions where you have to compete, political positions, military things, other prestigious jobs because you just want the prestige. You want the cool guy card, but you have to work very hard for it. And that takes a lot of effort, will, drive. So it's a lot of SE, a lot of forcing your will upon any obstacle and thing that gets in your way. Deltas are not, they don't view it that way. Which is an important distinction. It's about how the person is viewing the thing. There are some deltas who might work hard to go be a doctor or do a job, and they work very hard, but in their mind, it's like, I want to do this so that I can help people. And then once I have my cushy job, I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to relax, put my feet up. I'm making good money. I'm fine. Right. I'm working hard in order to finally have a nice, chill, comfortable life. Right. That might be the mindset that they have. For many of the gammas, especially extroverted gammas, they're known to be constantly upping the bar. I want to do more. I want to push myself to be better at this, or I want to do more than this. There are some, yeah. Although that's a long thing to get into, but yeah. That's a whole other video I got to get into. Important stuff. How does roll TI show up for EIIs and ESIs? I see it more with ESIs rather than EIIs, actually. they can kind of understand the logical principles or rules to a particular thing and use it when they kind of need to or are expected to in certain environments. So maybe it's a job. You could have one of these types goes into a scientific kind of job, or something that is a lot of analytical skills. Maybe you have an ESI that's a cop. There's rules, there's structure to things. You have ESIs that can go into military, and there's rules, structure to things, and so on. And they can adapt to some of that structure and use it when needed. But it's rarely the focus for them. It's something they're not likely to talk about on their own. They're not likely to bring up things that are very TI heavy on their own. It's not their way they like to approach things at all, especially for the EIIs. EIs generally try to avoid TI-ish stuff. Okay, last piece, then I'm going to drop off here. I am 90% LIE. I think when FE and SI combined can create an impression of simultaneous awkwardness and clumsiness completely from outside environments when encountering new people. FE and SI. Okay, in the case of an LI, all right, yeah. Again, with the LIEs and gammas, in the case of LIEs, like this is their super ego. SI and FE, they suck at this, right? This is just terrible. And they're usually just not thinking about it. They don't care about it. They don't value it very much. They put such little effort into this that they generally suck. It's just bad. It'll either look clumsy, you look like a fish out of water, or you just don't even bother to try, and you flat out just outsource that to somebody else. It's like somebody coming to you saying, hey, we want you to throw the graduation party theme, and we need you to decorate the place and put up nice lights and ambiance and find music and the punch bowl and all. And LIEs are like, what the fuck is it? Oh, fuck it. Like you don't want gammas, particularly the NT gammas, doing stuff like that, hosting and oof. And they're not going to want to. It just because they know that that's not their place. They don't want to do that. If a gamma has to do it, let it be an SEE or an ESI or something like that. But right, that's better done for alphas, FE and SI stuff. So, okay. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. I'm calling it quits. Thank you all for coming in. Good talk, guys. But it's late for me, and it's been over 2.5 hours, and I'm gonna have some wine. Enjoy yourselves. Good night.